Is going on, everybody? This is Zach with Man to Mike, and we are back with another episode, and I am so glad that you decided to stop by and kick it with me for just a little bit. Let's get right into it. The first video that we had was kind of a brief intro into the channel and a little bit about me, but it was real surface level. Just want to talk a little bit more just about me, introduce myself. My name is Zach Hawkins. I am a husband, a father, a brother, a son. I have 7 kids collectively between me and my wife. We're a blended family. I have 3. She has 4. We have a lot of fun around here. I'm an electrician by trade in the IBEW. I've been in the IBEW for 10 years now, and they've been really, really good to me, and they continue to be good to me, so I'll be sticking around with them for quite a while. I might even make a whole career out of it. You never even know. Also, on top of that, on the side, I'm a wedding photographer and videographer with my wife. It's a little side hustle that we've got going on. I've been doing that for about 7 years now. She's been doing it for about 12. When we got together, we kind of meshed these little things together, these little businesses together, and created a super business because we make a wonderful team together. She is a master editor and a great photographer, and she is wonderful at pushing me along and keeping me in line, and I am so grateful for her. And on top of that, we also have a little fragrance business that we have where we sell and we specialize in high-end niche fragrances, such as like Creed, Parfums de Marly, Initio, Tom Ford, and stuff like that. We have a lot of passions. I have a lot of things that I'm passionate about. And that's one of the things that about me. I can't just have a hobby. I can't just go fishing. I don't care anything about fishing. I mean, I can go fishing. I like fishing, but it's not like something I can just get into. You know, it's got to be something that I'm passionate about. Photography, I'm passionate about. Videography, I'm passionate about. This right here is definitely something I can see myself becoming crazy passionate about. I'm already enjoying this so much, and I kind of just feel in my element, and it just feels good just to be able to sit here and just talk. This is an outlet for me. This is a safe place for me just to get out all the things that I want to say that I don't know how to say. I don't know how to convey. So I can just sit here right in front of this camera and I can just talk to you. And if you listen, cool. And if you don't, cool. But this is kind of like therapeutic for me, and I'm really excited about this process of being able to sit with so many different people and hear so many different perspectives and to see how it molds and shapes and changes my own life and my own perspective and view. And that's one reason why I want to do this. I want to learn and grow from some people because I feel like there's some people out there that I can learn a lot of things from. And that's the whole point of this thing, of the whole iron sharpening iron thing. But, you know, we gotta sit and we got to talk about these things. We got to talk about the hard things, the difficult things that we don't want to talk about, these issues that we don't want to address. We don't have to go through anything in this life on our own, because I promise you, if you're going through something, I don't care how crazy that thing is, how personal it seems, how embarrassing it seems, somebody else out there is going through the same thing or worse. I promise you, there is nothing that you're going through that is so outlandishly crazy that can't be justified by human emotion, can't be justified by just circumstances in life. You know, everything that happens in your life molds and shapes you and makes you into the person that you are, with the thought processes that you have and the way and the things that you do. Not that those things are excused, not to say that we do things that are bad and it's excused by human nature, but it's easy to understand human nature when you understand other people's backgrounds. Like even, you know, people that's out there that's just, you know, a little off kilter, that you're like, man, how in the world did you do that? Like, if you knew a lot of their background, if you knew where they were coming from, if you knew any, like, it might make a lot more sense. Maybe not. I don't know. I'm not saying it would, but it might. So if we just sit down and listen to each other's perspectives for a little bit and maybe just not be so egotistical, you know, I think that's one problem that I had. I feel like it's something I've gotten a lot better at as I've gotten older, is always feeling like I know it all. Anytime somebody had a conversation with me, I always felt like I had something else that I could input on top of that to just show that I was more intelligent, or I was smarter, or I was the alpha, or whatever. And I've tried to get better at that as I've gotten older, because It really is just an ego thing, and there's so many wasted opportunities to learn from people because my ego's just through the roof. And so suppressing the male ego, like it's something I would like to talk about on this show a little bit, because like there's nothing wrong with a man having some ego. I feel like that's something that's in our nature, it's in our DNA, it's in our testosterone. It's what that's what makes us men, right? That's that competitive nature, that drive. That also at the same time, there's a fine line and a balance where you start sacrificing friendships and you start sacrificing relationships and maybe some things that you can learn from people, because our egos drive us so much to cause these barriers, these walls between us. I know, like for me, for instance, I can be up in the gym working out and there'll be another guy across the gym and I automatically look at him and like our egos are clashing across the gym, and I've not even talked to the dude. I have no idea anything about this guy. All I know is my ego looked at him and did not agree with it. And then instantly, every time I look at that person, I'm like, bro, look at me sideways one more time. You know what I'm saying? But there's no reason to be like that. So one thing that I've tried to start getting better at is when I have those things, I sit there and I recognize, okay, my ego doesn't like this person. Why does my ego not like this person? There's only one way to find out why my ego doesn't like that person, and that's to go to that person and find out why. And usually 9 times out of 10, we hit it off something crazy. One of my very best friends, Miles, it's your birthday, bro. I love you, dude. Miles is going to be on here next week. One of my very best friends in the whole world, right? Very first time, him strutting around this Conor McGregor like he is puffing his chest out. And I'm like, dude, who's this cat? Like, my ego did not agree with him, right? But the first time that I talked to that dude, game over. Loved him. One of my, like I said, do anything for him. Love that guy to death. And but it's just an example. And I learned from Miles. Man, I can grow from Miles. Like we have stuff that we can relate on. We can talk to. I can call him when things are messed up. A dude that I would have never had a conversation with because I let my ego get in the way became one of my best friends that I can call anytime. So dudes, if you've got this ego, you got this chip on your shoulder where you feel like you don't need nobody, like that's the dumbest crap I've ever heard. I don't need nobody. I'm all on my own. I'm doing all this on my, look, I've been there and that's stupid. It's dumb. Let it go. Nobody gets anywhere on their own. So there's always somebody that's helping. So nobody's just out here doing it on their own. So let all that crap go. Like there is so much freedom in losing the male ego. I'm going to be real honest. There is freedom in that. And because it just allows you to experience more, man. And like, it's crazy. But anyway, back on topic. We don't even have a topic. We're just talking right now. But anyway, I was talking about my awesome wife, my awesome family. I was talking about some of the passions and stuff that I've got. And I'm also we're just in shallow water right now. We haven't dove into the deep end where the water gets a little bit warm and it gets a little bit uncomfortable. But we're going to get there. We're going to get to some deeper water where stuff gets a little bit uncomfortable. But just to scratch the surface, just to sit right there on the edge of the pool and just dip your big toe right down there in the water for just a second. So I am a recovering addict. I've got about 12, 13 years sober off of Heron, and I was an IV drug user for some years and went down some pretty tough roads. And we're going to talk a lot about that on this show because addiction is something that's very passionate to me, and it is something that I still struggle with, and any addict that is out there that is in recovery still struggles with. It is a daily struggle, but it is something that we struggle through together, and it's something that we can talk about, and it's something that we can get through. And it doesn't have to be a scary thing when you have a support system. So if you're out there and you're struggling through addiction, or if you've got a loved one that is in addiction, we're going to be talking a lot about addiction. We're going to talk to a lot of addicts in recovery, and we're going to try to get y'all some help out there. And if there's anything that you need, if you have a loved one that is ready to make that change in their life and they're ready to get sober and find a new way of living, and they want some hope and they need some love and they need some support, you can get in touch with me, and I will gladly put you in touch with somebody that can get you fixed up. I have a lot of cool people that I can refer you to that can help you get the treatment and the help that you need. So feel free to use me as a resource. I will tell you this as a quick disclaimer. My time is very precious because I do have a large family. We have a lot going on, but I do want to be able to take the time to help people. But I want to give a disclaimer. If you reach out to me and say, I have this loved one that's struggling with addiction, would you mind to call them and reach out to them and talk to them? Lovingly, I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, I can't. And here's the reason why. They're not going to hear me, first of all. It's a futile conversation that's not going to go anywhere, and it's going to be a waste of my time. And I don't mean that, and please don't take that bad. I've done this long enough now, and I was also an addict that had family members that had a bunch of people try to call me and try to tell me all these things about recovery, and I can't tell you one word that any of them ever said, because when you're in addiction, you're not hearing any of it. Until that person comes to you and say, I'm ready to find a new way to live, there's really not a whole lot that you can do except love them from a distance. Do not enable them, and pray to the good Lord that he intervene on their behalf. That was what worked for me. And show some hard love. That's the best thing that I can say, is if you have a loved one that is struggling with addiction, the best thing that you can do is sit back and reevaluate your own self, and to make sure that you are not the enabler in that person's life. Because if you are on a slippery slope with that person, and they are not on a road to recovery, but you are digging them a deeper grave. I can promise you. The enabler and addict relationship is a very sick relationship. It's a very codependent relationship, and the enabler becomes just as sick as the addict. And in a lot of cases, once the addict gets sober, the enabler has to get in some recovery and some Al-Anon and stuff as well, so they can find a new way to live, to not help or to not hurt the addict that is trying to get sober. And so if you have somebody that's close to you in your life, the number one thing, and it's a hard thing to do, to step back and evaluate and to say, am I enabling this person to continue living this way? If you are contributing to them and financially in any kind of way, if you're giving them a place to stay, if you're giving them rides to places, I can promise you are not doing them any good. The only way that an addict will ever learn is when they come to the end of themselves, and they become so desperate and so broken that they come to the spot where they're ready themselves to find a new way to live. But until they're ready to find a new way to live, there is nothing that anybody, me, you, or anyone can say, unless the good Lord decides to intervene on their behalf and through his sovereign will do something miraculous, which he can do. So if you have an addict, evaluate, make sure you're not the one that's enabling. If so, I strongly encourage you to look into a program that is along the lines of NA and AA, but it is not for addicts. It is for family members of addicts, and it is called Al-Anon. So if you are that person, take a good look at yourself. It's okay. You just got to figure out a new way to live in a relationship with the addict. And so I strongly encourage you going to Al-Anon. It will help you. And then if you are the addict, and you're trying to find a new way to live, and maybe you're just newly sober, maybe you just got sober, and you're trying to sit there and you're going through all the steps, and you're trying to figure out all the things that you got to do to find a new way to live, a healthier way to live, a happier way to live, a more successful way to live, then is what you need to do is you need to evaluate who those enabling people are in your life, and you need to have some hard conversations with that person. Because like I said, the enabler and addict relationship is a very sick, codependent relationship, and so maybe they don't even know it yet, because sometimes the enabler just thinks that they're loving you. They think that they're doing a very loving thing, and it is loving. I understand that, but at the same time, you can only love somebody to death. You know what I mean? Somebody always has further to fall until they quit breathing. I found out that my rock bottom had about 3 basements underneath, and I found myself in that 3rd level basement, and I'm pretty sure that was the last level because that floor was feeling a little warm, if you know what I mean. So yeah, if you're an addict trying to find a new way to live, find whoever that person is that had enabled you through your addiction and lovingly confront them and just say, look, if I come to you and say I ain't ate a cheeseburger or I ain't ate any food in a week, don't even buy me a cheeseburger. And if they come to you and say, do you need anything? You got to be strong enough to say no. That's part of your recovery process. Tell your enabler no. I promise you, it's hard. It's hard because it's like letting go of something. It's like letting go of something that you know is always going to be there. The enabler would continue enabling you till you died, and you know that. And so you know that you could just go back. And so there's almost like that enabler is like a safety blanket. Yeah, you're like that dude, and you're like that little kid, Charlie Brown, that carries that blanket everywhere. Your enabler is that blanket, but that blanket's getting a little bit stinky, and everybody's smelling the funk that's coming off of it when you're rolling around there because it ain't doing nothing but keeping you down. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes you got to shed that blanket, throw that thing in the washer for a little bit, let it find a new way to live on its own. You know what I'm saying? And so have that conversation with your enabler and just tell them you're trying to find a new way to live, and you appreciate them loving you for a distance. And they can call you and they can encourage you and they can love you and they can support you, but don't give you any financial help because you need to figure out how to do it on your own. That was what helped me out so much, was realizing that I had put myself in a position where I would have to figure it out on my own, and I would either sink or swim. And so I felt like that was good for me. And you're like, oh man, that's harsh. That's harsh. Is it really? I was a 24-year-old grown man acting like a 14-year-old kid. Really? Like, people go through much harder things. All I was asked to do was suck it up, be a decent human being, quit robbing people, quit putting a needle in your arm, work a job, be a productive human being. Like, in the scheme of things, it's not that hard, but I understand that we're addicts and our brains don't work that way. So you have to program yourself. You have to figure out how to make those changes. You have to figure out how you're going to fit in with society that doesn't fit in with you. Addicts don't fit into society, but every addict understands each other. We all understand each other. I can sit down, I can pick an addict out of a crowd from a mile away, just like any other addict out there can. We can pick each other out. We know. It's like we got radar spidey sense. We got dope sense, right? I can smell you. I know. You've had Heron before. I know. Look, I'm telling you, it's a whole sense that we develop over time. But I can sit in a room full of addicts and I never feel more comfortable. I can sit in front of a room full of a bunch of people that don't know anything about addiction, and I'm the most uncomfortable I could ever be. But you can put me in front of 400, 500 addicts, and we'll have a good time. You know what I mean? And we'll all laugh and we'll cut up and it'll be fun. And because we can understand each other. And when I'm sitting there talking to addicts, that's the thing, man. I have a weird sense of humor. Like, addicts have a weird sense of humor. We have a dark sense of humor. We get a little twisted. And like, I can say some stuff to people that ain't addicts, and they just look at me like I feel like they're about to call the police. I feel like they're about to have me admitted. I feel like I can already feel the walls closing in, and like the padded walls. I start breathing all heavy and stuff. People start looking at me funny, and I start going back in this shell a little bit. You know what I mean? I try to find my people so I can gravitate toward my people, and we can talk about some things that I understand. I don't know if that makes any sense. If you're an addict out there, does that make any sense? Holler back at me. Hey, I love you all. I appreciate y'all kicking it with me for just a little bit. We kind of went off the rails, off the hinge, but that's the thing with this podcast, man. There's no rhyme or reason to it. We're just sitting down talking and seeing what the good Lord does with it. We just following and flowing. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just wanting to sit here and kick it with you all and have some conversation, tell you a little bit about myself, and get to know some new people and learn from some people. And so if you want to be on the show, man, holler at me. I'd love to have you on. I got quite a few cool people lined up next week. We're going to have some cool conversations next week. I am so excited for this. Like, I cannot tell you how stoked I am to make this happen. And everybody that's asked, like, what are we going to talk about? I'm like, I don't know. We're just going to start talking and see what happens. And so I think it's going to be really cool. And my second mic and everything will be here Saturday. So when we come back to you again, we should have a 2-person setup, and we're going to be sitting here kicking it in the garage. I am Zach. This is Man to the Mic. We are